Managers of Reddit, what is the most unprofessional thing an employee has done that resulted in an immediate termination? I had an employee who got drunk on her lunch break, flipped her car, went to jail, mugshot with our company logo on her shirt. Perfect. Edit. Everyone is asking. Our lunch break is 1 hour. Many employees leave to go out to eat. Potentially there were other substances involved. Free advertising though. I was a partner business but wasn't involved in the day-to-day management or anything much anymore, started another venture. I'm a big rough-looking black guy, which is important for the story. I can't remember the reason, but I needed to sign some paperwork, and it had to happen within the hour. I think it had to do with a big client and some type of equity in their business in exchange for service. So I left the gym and drove straight to the office. I was showered and clean, but in casual clothing, jeans and a t-shirt. When I arrived, the receptionist said very loudly, "Can I help you?" There was already something off with her tone, but I didn't really care. I simply said yes, I'd like to see Mr. Hampton, he's expecting me. I should have said my name, which she'd have maybe recognized, but I don't know why I didn't or she didn't ask. She didn't pull up a schedule, ask on the intercom, call his line or anything. She then laughed and said, "Mr. Hampton doesn't take walk-ins, sir." This alone wouldn't be a big deal, even though I think the laugh is rude. She then turned her chair away from me with her back facing me. I said, "Excuse me." And she put headphones in. There was one other guy waiting to see our office manager for a job as a courier, and he was kind of snickering and amused. It was embarrassing and unacceptable. I then raised my voice and said, "I need to see Mr. Hampton and I'm going ahead." As I said, "He's expecting me." She just laughed, but wouldn't buzz me in. It's a set of office suites, and to get to what we call the bullpen you have to be buzzed in. I don't know if she saw me through the glass, but the office manager ran up and buzzed me in and greeted me by name. The receptionist went white as a sheet. I could tell she was shitting bricks. I signed the papers and let my partner know what had happened. He walked out with me and just told her to pack her bags. Legitimately fired on the spot. When I look back, I feel kind of bad for her, but it was so ridiculous. There's no reason to treat anyone that way. A client could have turned up underdressed as well. Absolute madness. Guy had a crush on a female co-worker. He passed her a note at work one day with a gob of hand lotion inside it and the words, "I got really excited thinking about you earlier." Girl freaked out. Went to management. Guy got escorted out. It's like creepums but analog. And twice the evil. I had an officer under me. He was reported in a tree. I went to investigate the last place he was seen. He was still there, attempting to pepper spray birds. I wish I could have made that up. Edit. Fired immediately. What's hilarious is that pepper spray has no effect on birds. They can't taste it and it doesn't irritate their eyes. I actually didn't know that, hahaha, good gracious. Put him below subpar. One of our delivery drivers was supposed to be training a new employee, basically driving around and introduce them to routes and customers and that type of thing. Well, he told the new driver to just drop him off at the park down the street, and when my boss drives the 15 seconds to the park, he was smoking crack with bums. Literally smoking crack cocaine with bums at the park. Edit. So of course the dude got fired. Then maybe a month later we get a call from a customer saying that he was walking in the middle of a busy intersection with our company's shirt on. That sounds like some shit they'd show on a don't do drugs video in health class. I was gonna do my route. But then I got high.
My husband is a manager and his employee somehow had another employee's ID and then stole that person's check and cashed it. Caught it all on camera. She still denied it.
In the legal field, that's called the shaggy defense. But we saw you sign the paper. It wasn't me. We even caught you on camera. It wasn't me. I hope this is a real thing between legal personnel. I work in pizza delivery and we had a guy back in the day, fellow manager, who tried to shut down the store 5 hours before the time that corporate set for us to close. He clocked every person out and sent them home, and then just refused to take the phone calls or anything like that. He was fired immediately after our boss found out, and he even tried to come into work the next day like everything was fine. We used to do shit like that at my store once or twice a year. We always said the oven broke down or the power went out. No one bothered to check and nobody ever got in trouble. Was going over security footage. Saw an employee that didn't want to sign their contract take it, sign it, stick it down the front of his pants and wipe it around on his junk, then stick it in the secretary's inbox. Contract was burned, inbox was disinfected, employee was fired. Wow, that's disgusting. It's a good thing you caught that before the secretary got a hold of it. I had to send a guy to a remote gas petroleum refinery site for an inspection. Previously he had been reliable on most occasions. However, on this occasion he never showed up for the pre-drug alcohol test the day before he had to fly out and gave me a long-winded excuse, basically blaming his car troubles. At this point I would have gone myself to site, however I was just back from a bone graft to my collarbone, so I wasn't going anywhere. The director made the final decision to send him anyway against my recommendations. We flew him to site to do his on-site induction, where he would do the D&A test anyway. Part way through his induction he got up and left. I called him that night, but never got an answer, so I checked with his accommodation, and the hotel claimed he had checked in within the last half hours. I was just glad nothing major had happened. Next morning I speak to the client, and the client informs me that the staff member apologized for leaving abruptly and had to rush off and deal with some personal issues. I don't press it any longer. 2 hours goes by, and I get a call from the client stating that they've kicked him off site because they found him asleep on site, and when they woke he became extremely aggressive. The client is furious about this and says we're a cowboy of an operation for sending someone like this and to fly someone up the next day to finish the job. That night we have a conference call with the client stating that we're no longer going to be working for them due to this issue, costing our company roughly $1 mil from the loss of the contract. We bring him the day after he flies back to ask about his actions. I'm supposed to head this up and get his side of the story except before we even get into really discussing things my director asks, if we are to drug test you today would you fail? He answers yes, and he was told Hess being terminated instantly. He starts yelling at the top of his lungs and blaming his actions on everyone else. I told him he needs to leave straight away or police will get called. He does, he leaves. Then for the next month our admin receive emails about how I'm terrible at my job and I should be fired for not listening to his problems, which he had never spoken to me about. So yeah, that was the day I fired my brother and found out he was addicted to meth. Had an employee pass out in his truck in a customer's driveway. Customer called me to report, said employee had a glass pipe on his chest. Luckily guy decides to call me instead of the sheriff. Employee was picked up and brought back to shop. When asked what was going on he stated, I was on break, it wasn't weed, it just spice. Sorry bud, I don't think this is gonna work out. Spice? Do you spice? Are you looking for the Suncut Bazaar? I'm not the manager involved, but I think this fits the bill. A co-worker of mine who was a little bit too into his car got snapped doing twice the speed limit. Instead of pulling over for the patrol car behind him, he decided to run for it. He led a police chase to the office and shook them off by hiding in the underground parking. The GM watched it happen from his office. He took the lift down, found co-worker's car and told him not to bother getting out. But did it clear his wanted level? Yes, but the stupid motor packer ran a cop over leaving the garage. Like, comment, and share. Reddit Story Topper. Subscribe now.